All right, well, welcome back, everybody. My name's Andrew, and you're watching the Kelley's Country Life. And man, is it dark in here today. So you can see for the first time ever, I've had to start setting up some lights. I'm gonna put up some more because it is so dark. Actually, just behind that wall is a huge, and I mean huge, line of thunderstorms. I'm already starting to hear the thunder. We're not too terribly far away from getting some rain, and it is really gonna mess my week up right here. So today has been going up and up and up. They're now saying 70% chance of rain, 80% tomorrow, 60 the next day. So I have called off renting the ditch witch to run the electrical and plumbing around the house, because if it's gonna rain this much, and I'm telling you, the radar is just blown up with rain, but if it's gonna rain that much, you can't really dig a ditch quickly because you're on a time crunch because you've rented the machine, it's not cheap, and then let it rain and wash your ditch right back in before you can go and glue all your joints together, which you don't need to do in the rain. I need a full day out there putting electrical conduit and plumbing together, and it needs to be a dry day. So it's really messing me up. I finally got my sub panel in, so that's what we're gonna try to work on today. Go ahead and pull this main panel back out, run us some conduit, figure out how we wanna do that, some 1.5 inch over to here, so we can run some 100 amp feeder wire over to that sub panel, which we're not gonna run wire today. We need to go and do our knock through on the side of the house in between rainstorms and then get it nice and sealed up. Then we can go ahead and start pulling all the wires in the panels, putting knockouts up there, clamps, and kind of getting everything set up and ready for rough-in electrical, which will be coming soon enough. Also got some more Cat 6 in. I wanna run one more line out to this side porch just in case I ever do a wireless access point out there. A few other things I'm gonna piddle with. I'm gonna have to try to find some inside stuff with all this rain. This sucks. Last week was relatively dry. This week wasn't supposed to be bad, and then every day I check the radar and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. Higher chances of rain, but that's life. It is what it is. Let's just try to accomplish some stuff. Plus I have the Propane gas company coming out today as well to meet with me on running gas lines in the house. I'll let you know how that goes. All right, so if y'all watched the last episode, which I haven't even released yet, so sorry if somebody suggested this because, well, I haven't released it and read your comments. But I drilled all the way through with a hole saw on another part of the house, and I knew better. When I come through, the teeth grabbed, tore my vapor barrier. Now I can patch that really easily. It didn't tear too much. But I got to thinking, what if I were to partially drill through like you just seen me do, got my hole out here, come out here with this hole saw, and spin it in reverse. I wonder if it'll clean cut this without gripping, because the teeth only bite one direction right here. So if I spin it in reverse, it may just neatly trim this. Let's see. Or it may back my whole hole saw off, but beautiful. Okay, that's the way to do that from here on out with a hole saw. And that gives me a perfect hole. I don't have to come out here and try to guess at it with a razor knife either. Now we can finish cutting this through in forward speed. All right, so before I go any further, I need to make for sure I can feed my wire through here. I've got a tight bend down here, and the beautiful thing about these boxes is they've got a removable cover to make ease of feeding the wire. Problem is, because I've got one flipped around the opposite direction, I can't take the cover off the box. So down here is where I'm gonna have a little bit of a problem bending this wire coming out, especially as thick as this wire is. So I have been struggling to find copper wire here. So I went with 100 amp feeder service cable. This is aluminum, but you have to upsize it to a couple gauges larger than copper, for example. I'm using aluminum over there on my shop, been using it for years. Actually, what they're gonna pull to the house is aluminum feeder cable all the way from the power pole. I have no choice in the matter. That's what the co-op uses. So pretty much all my feeder cable is going to be aluminum. I'll also, whenever we hook this up in another episode, show that I put anti-oxidizing gel on there, because aluminum can actually oxidize and make a bad connection where the screw-in terminals are. But the one thing that I really do like about buying the big bundled aluminum service cable is, it comes with your 2 hots, your 2 blacks, your neutral, and it also comes with a nice ground, so I don't have to purchase that separately there as well. So let me see if I can get these fed through this box. Going out this way to the sub panel won't be a problem, because I've got plenty of room to pull the wire out and loop it back through. Over here is where I may have to fight with it just a little. Now some of y'all also may be wondering why on earth I did these 90-degree boxes. Because I have such tight bends I need to make inside of a 2x6 wall. You can do the big sweeps, the 90-degree sweeps they offer, but they won't work in such a tight space. They make a sweep about that big. It'd be sticking way outside the house, probably still have some of a bend coming outside the house, not at the true 90-degree angle that I need, and it would loop big in here. They're too large for this situation. These boxes were the only thing that I could find to help me make the sharp bends that I needed to make to go into 2 different panels. All right, there's wire number 2. All right, going a little easier than I was thinking. If we can get our neutral fed through there, which is an even softer and smaller wire, we're in business. Then ground. And then I've actually got to feed 1 wire back this direction. That'll keep the water out for a couple days at least. Get out of it. Right. All right, so it took a little bit of fighting, but I have all 4 of my cables through. Once I install my panel, I have to try to feed 1 12-gauge wire back through there. This is the one that's going to that 3rd outdoor circuit that I ran, and I'll also have an outdoor outlet outside as well. Oh, it's going to be fun, because it's pretty aggravating getting these through with the box set up the way that I have it, but I do have them, and you'll probably notice I have different color wires because it looked like I was going to be about a foot short of my other wire. Just had to run to town, purchase more wires. But we're done now. Let's get this panel installed. All right, that actually worked out very well. So what I did was I just pulled this neutral wire all the way back through, left a little bit hanging out, taped my wire to it, and I was able to pull this 12 gauge wire back the opposite direction of all the other wires. That worked really well. I would have never been able to just feed it through by hand. Now, I'm gonna take a moment to explain this because I'm sure y'all are gonna burn the keyboards up on this one. There's a lot of people out there, me included until I did a little research, that thinks you cannot run 110 volt in with 220 in the same conduit. I could not find that anywhere in code. Actually, code says you can run I think it's stated like multi-voltage connectors in the same raceway, same conduit, same cable tray, etc. The rule is, whatever conduit you're running this in, I'm running an 1.5" conduit, has to be rated for the highest voltage line going through there, which happens to be 100 amp service, 220 volt lines. 1.5" is absolutely rated for that, so that's no issue combining a 110 in there. Also, don't forget, I believe it's an 1.5" and higher, you have to put one of these rounded over bushings on 1.5" pipe ends and higher because, well, again, the conduit's rated for whatever size wire you're gonna run. And once you start getting into this 100 amp and up stuff, it is so stiff, chances are it's gonna try to rub and chafe on the edge of that pipe. So if you put the bushing on the end here, that rounded over edge, it keeps from cutting into the wire, cutting into this. Because some people actually use metal pipe to come in these boxes too. You absolutely want a bushing on that, I would imagine, so you don't chafe in to this wire and energize the box or pipe. Tell you what, this was a job right here, but I actually enjoy this kind of stuff right here. I've always loved electrical. Actually, when I was younger, I was thinking electrical engineer is what I wanted to do until I realized how much math is involved in engineering. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. So what I've been doing is stripping the ends off that I have labeled, like this one says micro for microwave. And watch this. Stripping the rest of the wire off. This is my last one, at least for today. Just use my old Klein strippers and barely cutting the sheathing. It pops loose so easily. Going ahead and stripping the paper back off the ground. Just gets everything nice and easy to work with in the box. And then I'm finding, if I'll put those wires back together, slide the sheathing right back over it, it fits on nice and snug. Slide it down the middle. Now my wire's still labeled and I have to go off the trouble of making new labels and just kind of loop it up in the box. I've got to look back on the rules for rough end inspection, but I think I leave the wires loose like this. I'll get it corrected if I don't have to, or if I have to do something else. All right, now a little tip for you. Something that I do with these wires, especially the 12 gauge wires, but 14 gauge grounds work as well. I prefer the beefier 12 gauge. Once I start trimming all this back later, I'm gonna wind up with a ton of these ground wires. I'm not throwing them straight into the trash because I'll cut them all about that length right there. Just cut a bunch of them up. You take an old soda bottle that you can clean out or something like that, put them in there like a toothpick holder, and you now have tip cleaners for the rest of your life. Especially, you know, if you're like me, you're always digging around trying to find a nail or something to get down into that bottle of silicone, either a fresh cut one or the old one to clean it out. Well, I'm gonna wind up with hundreds of these by the time this project's done, and I'll have tip cleaners for things like that. So don't throw away your copper wire. So this couldn't have worked out any better. I filled every single knockout up here but one. I miscounted. I guess I did not have to use that one. And let's go ahead and talk about knockouts real quick. All 1/2 inch knockouts can only accept one wire. And I was under the impression after talking with one of y'all the other day that all knockouts in general can only take one wire. But if there's one thing I've learned, read the manufacturer's specs on package or whatever it is you're doing in your home. Because once you step up to the 3/4 knockout, the larger one, it actually lists it from 14 gauge all the way down to 10 gauge. You can double the wire up in that. And what I have learned throughout this process is code is there, but manufacturer tends to override code more often than not. So if the manufacturer says you could put 2 wires in a 3/4 knockout, you absolutely can. Just save your package to show your inspector. But all these has to be 1 wire and 1 wire only. Obviously I got my bigger one here for my 6 gauge, bigger one for the 10. Everything is nice and clean. Also code states that within 12 inches of where you exit your box, and this is right about 12 inches, I put a blocking in and you have to staple your wires. Another thing, read what your staples say. You can actually double up wires as well with staples. And I really needed to because I was gonna run out of room. But your wires have to be secured within 12 inches of your panel. So I'm really happy with the way everything looks. I still got a little bit more wiring to do, although it's gonna be down here and at the sub panel. But how I'll wrap all this up and I'll show y'all in a few days. I'm gonna fire block foam seal this gap as well. That's also required by code. And I'll have to come in and foam seal all the blocking that we cut through as well. So flames, smoke, ventilation couldn't happen in the event of a fire. So this was a shorter episode about one thing, but this is such a critical component in the house, I did not want to skip over it. And once we do the final installation of this, putting in all the breakers and wires, that'll be quite a ways down the road, we'll record that process as well. Now, this took longer than it really looks like, but I had to leave today to go get more wire. Yeah, we'll install the sub panel. I've decided I'm gonna do all that after siding, so that's gonna really hold up my rough end inspection. No big deal. I'll just wind up multiple inspections the same day the inspector comes over, from rough end HVAC to in progress siding to rough end electrical. Then I can move on to spray foam. The other thing that kind of held me up today was I met with the propane gas company. So this is the part where we're done working. I'll talk to y'all for a minute. I know some people can't stand the talking. Adios. Thanks for watching. Let me tell you what the propane guy said today. So we are going to be doing a gas stove over here. I just really enjoy the way they cook. I've always had one. I really prefer them over electric. So some things had to change today as far as the propane goes. I was thinking I could put the tank out here beside the wall and kind of keep it over by the AC condenser and everything together, from breaker panels, you name it. Well, turns out that is not the case. The rules state that a propane tank cannot be within 5 feet of a combustion source, which can be the hot water heater I'm gonna have out there. It can be the breaker panel, and it can't be within 5 foot of a window. So we're gonna have to move that tank toward the back corner of the house. Really, that's no problem. We just have to run a line underneath the ground. Then we're gonna come up through the wall, somewhere over in this general area, and come straight across just through blocking. I'm trying to avoid going through any more floor joist, and we'll have one connection and one connection only in the house right here. He's actually going to run a flexible stainless steel line. I didn't really know that even existed. I'm used to copper. One fitting right here to come down in the wall, and then we'll have the outlet for the stove. Now here's where it gets good. I talked to him as well about a hot water heater outside. They're running a killer deal on a Renai gas water heater right now. If you're a member. Well, looks like I've got signed up and I'm gonna be a member now. So that's great. I mean, a really good deal, like several $100s cheaper than Amazon good deal. So he's working me up with a package to do a Rinnai hot water heater outside, which I already wanted one of those anyways. He's got a hookup there. He's also gonna put me a hookup right outside by my generator plug for my generator. I have a dual fuel generator that'll run on propane or gas. We had a scare a few years ago when hurricanes come through here. People evacuated down south. We couldn't get gas for days. Actually, everybody was running out, couldn't run generators, and we were out power because, well, a hurricane hit. So I've always wanted a large enough tank and a hookup to hook up my propane generator. So he's gonna run me that. Then I got to asking him something. I was like, this just isn't even gonna work, but let me ask the guy anyways. So y'all know that out here we're kind of doing I keep calling it an outdoor kitchen, but it's more an outdoor bar area. It's just gonna have an L-shaped bar with seating, a food prep area, and I wanna put a couple of big, nice cast iron burners out there, propane burners, so we can cook and entertain. Well, I should have done something when I poured the slab, like run PVC where they could have fished a copper wire through, and I should have had propane service right there. So my plan's always been I'm just gonna swap out 20-pound cylinders, which are aggravating, and you pay about triple the price on your propane when you do that. So I asked him, is there any way that we could run a propane line over to this with what you see today? The good news is, he said yes. Because they have that cool, flexible stainless line, he says, again, it's still just one connection in the house. They'll actually put that as a T connection right above the stove, come up through the loft wall, through the blocking, which is great. I don't want to come through the purlin. Blocking is no problem. Down this wall, he didn't see any issue running by the truss, whatever, says that's perfectly legal for them to do. Poke out right there with a cutoff valve or either a ball type cutoff valve. And now I'm going to have propane out there, and I can hook up any propane source that I want, from my generator to burners, so you name it. So I thought that was awesome. That is so awesome. They can still do it, even though it's an afterthought and something I should have thought of to begin with. So now we're gonna wind up with a 120-gallon tank. I wanted a 250, but rules state a 250-gallon tank cannot be next to a structure. It has to be out in the yard. I did not want that. So we're gonna do 120. That's still a plenty big enough tank for cooking. I bet they still won't fill it but a couple times a year, maybe 3 times, no big deal. So that's where we're at. Now, this is all dependent on the quote that he gives me tomorrow. They're gonna have to have their installer run all that, that's fine. I don't feel comfortable running gas lines. Got the hot water heater in there, my new tank, they gotta fill the tank completely up. The labor, I'm scared to death to get this quote. So yeah, I'm excited about it, scared about it. It is what it is. So here is some bad news. We'll wrap this video up. I just like keeping y'all in the loop because y'all are so involved with this house build. The windows have become the big sore subject with the house, and I mean, they're gonna be a big problem. It's starting to look like. So a window company contacted me today that I reached out to. I've reached out to multiple ones. Backstory was we had somebody that was in the family that lives a long ways off that was gonna do the windows, and we've been working with them a couple months. Turns out they just can't make it to us. They're working 7 days a week trying to meet their clients' demands. So we found that out recently. We started scrambling then and looking for somebody else. Well, I just got my first quote from 2 companies I'm dealing with locally. Oh my gosh, unbelievably expensive. Once I swallowed that pill, here's where it gets interesting. They quoted me 4 months, up to 4 months before they could deliver the windows. Wow. Went to town, reached out to another company. Guess what they quoted me? Up to 4 months before they can deliver the windows. I don't know what's going on, y'all. This is insane. In 4 months from now, way less than 4 months from now, I plan on having siding, windows, everything in, and the AC running in this house, much less not 2 huge open holes up here. And keep in mind, I can't finish my siding up front. So the fact that we had to scramble last minute on these windows may have a huge setback in the house. I have some of y'all looking for companies, try to see if they could come out here. I have one more company that, fingers crossed, may be able to help me out locally and shorten this time frame. But man, I'm needing help, and I'm needing help fast with windows. So hopefully something works out here before long. So thank y'all so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Hope you look forward to the updates and things that are coming. We'll catch you on the next video.